Hi, I'm your host, Brent. Welcome to the Climate Guru, where we discuss pressing environmental issues, including with leading experts. Join us for insightful conversations to inform and inspire action in your everyday life. Chaco Canyon historic site in northwest New Mexico is one of the biggest and the most important archaeological sites in all of the country. Chaco Canyon, 1,000 years ago, was a cultural and ceremonial center for the ancient Pueblo people, and it's still a sacred site for New Mexico Pueblos, Hopi Indians of Arizona, and Navajos. The Chaco Canyon National Historic Park was created in 1907. It is the largest structures ever built in North America 1,000 years ago by the ancestral Pueblos. Some of the buildings are 4 to 5 stories high. Some of the buildings have 500 to 700 rooms, and it was built in an area which has extensive roads and other ceremonial centers that extend out 53 square miles. Last summer, I was traveling across the country and stopped in New Mexico and traveled out to Chaco Canyon National Park. It was an amazing ride across 2-3 hours across the roughest roads. I didn't know if my camper was going to make it. Finally, we got there and saw the most magnificent ruins of a magnificent city built 1,000 years ago by the Pueblos. You could spend days exploring these structures and this area. This is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It was the ceremonial and residential structures, some of the largest ever built in North America by the ancient Pueblo. The Chaco Canyon was the hub of the Pueblo civilization, and it is now the ancestral home of many of these Southwest tribes. In 2023, the federal government created a 10-mile protected zone around the Chaco Canyon National Historic Park to protect it from oil and gas leaching on this public land next to the park for the next 20 years. This is one of the most sacred sites of Native Americans in North America. Now, the Trump administration announced through the Interior Department that it wants to take away these protections, this 10-mile buffer zone around Chaco Canyon, to allow a drilling of gas and oil. This has caused a huge protest and reaction from tribal leaders, as well as the representatives from New Mexico, representative in Congress, Melanie Stansbury, who is speaking out strongly against this intended change to allow desecration of these sacred areas. Tribal leaders have said Chaco Canyon is not for sale. They are asking for the federal government to maintain its 10-mile protective zone around the Chaco Cultural National Historic Park. This is one of the largest collections of ancestral Native sites in all of North America. It continues to be an important cultural center to these tribal communities. It's the most sweeping collection of Native American ruins in all of North America, north of Mexico. It's in a high desert landscape. It's south of Mesa Verde and shares the same ancient Pueblo culture of Mesa Verde. It was a center of a thriving culture 1,000 years ago, the mid-800s, for 300 years. They built massive buildings, great houses, multiple stories high, some with 700 rooms, public structures, meeting, and also for ceremonies. The structures were built so they aligned with the solar and lunar directions, very sophisticated astronomical markers. There are 150 great houses throughout the region, many with hundreds of rooms. There are water control devices for the agriculture that was raised in the area, particularly corn. By the year 1050, Chaco had become the economic and ceremonial administrative center of the San Juan Basin, one of the centers of the ancient Pueblo civilization. And the heirs, of course, are today's Hopi and Pueblo tribes. It was the center of a huge turquoise trading network that extended over hundreds of miles. There are subterranean kivas, which are structures built in the ground for meetings and also for spiritual activities. Surrounding this area for miles are 15 major complexes that contain 150 great houses throughout the region. As in ancient times, the area is surrounded by wildlife, mule deer, elk, pronghorn, bobcats, badgers, foxes, prairie dogs, Cooper's hawk, owls, hummingbirds, and prairie rattlesnakes. In ancient times, 1,000 years ago, the Chacoans quarried sandstone blocks and hauled timber from great distances to build the 15 major complexes that are the largest buildings ever built in North America until the 19th century. Immense complexes known as great houses were the centers of worship at Chaco. Ceremonial structures known as kivas were built in proportion to the number of rooms in a pueblo. One small kiva was built for roughly every 29 rooms. Kivas were used for meetings as well as ceremonial and spiritual activities. At least 12 of the principal Chaco and 14 or 15 complexes were sited and aligned in coordination with the axes of the sun and the moon at visually pivotal times. The Solstice Project with the U.S. National Geodetic Survey did studies of the great houses in Pueblo Bonito and found that the site was created along a precise east-west line axis that captures the passage of the equinox sun. This implies a possible intent to mirror the equinox at midday. Some have asked why ancient tribes in the Americas, the Mayans, the Pueblos, were so interested in astronomy and the order of the universe. It's been suggested by some archaeologists and historians that the heavens seem to be orderly and predictable. Turquoise was very important to the people of Chaco. Archaeologists found 200,000 pieces of turquoise that were excavated. They had workshops to manufacture beads, and they were used for grave goods, burials, and ceremonial offerings. In 2 burials at Pueblo, 15,000 turquoise beads and pendants were found. There was widespread trade of turquoise throughout this entire southwest part of the United States. By the year 1115, there were 7 outlying pueblos, towns, ceremonial centers of the Chacoan province, built within the 25,000 square mile area. Some archaeologists suggest they may have been trading centers and ceremonial sites. There's a web of 6 Chacoan road systems extending up to 60 miles in generally straight routes, and they're very sophisticated engineering. It's been suggested that the ancient pueblos called the Anasazi built the roads to transport timber from perhaps 70 miles away in order to build their structures. Beginning in the 13th century, much of Chaco Canyon and the surrounding populations and centers and houses were abandoned, and it's believed that there was a drought in the area and it just couldn't support the growing population. When I explored the area last summer, we went to Pueblo Bonito, which is one of the most important pueblos in the complex. It covers about 2 acres and has 650 rooms. It's the largest great house part of the complex. It's just extraordinary. There was a great kiva placed inside the area where there were ceremonial centers and meetings. And so the fight continues by the current Pueblo people, Hopi, to protect their ancient sacred site that continues to be sacred for today, to protect it from what the Trump administration, Department of Interior, wants to remove the protections for oil and gas leasing. What a desecration that would be of one of the most important historic ceremonial Native American sites in all of North America. Thanks for tuning in to the Climate Guru podcast. Stay inspired, stay informed, and keep taking action for our planet's future. Until next time, and remember, together we can make a difference.